They got the gun. Now the athletes got the opportunity to speak up for themselves. Now we really can go toe for toe if that's what y'all really want to do. So it was a lot of things that was spewed. And even then, like when you look at this, Peggy, it's disturbing from the athlete. It's like these motherfuckers are haters, bro. Like real shit. Like this motherfucker gives a backhand compliment to the whole Fox post-game show. Richard Sherman, oh man, I can't stand Richard Sherman. Nate Burleson, oh, I never really liked him either. Oh man, Carissa Thompson, oh yeah, I don't like, yeah, she's good. But like, bro, shut that hating ass shit up. And that's cool. Like, former athlete, cool, bro. I think this is the first time in my life being a content creator, a YouTuber, former athlete, yes, bro, that I can really speak on shit like most athletes want to speak on shit, especially talking to y'all lame ass motherfuckers, bro. And I'm not the dude that's gonna send subliminal threats. I'm not gonna, you're not that.
TunaBeats.com.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm glad that you all are joining me back on my channel today. I wanted to make a video talking about this clip here that I recorded with Cam Newton and what he had to say about Jason Whitlock, and just give a little bit of intake of my own perspective of what I think, right? So first things first, like, if you all remember, Cam Newton was a great Carolina Panther quarterback, led Auburn to the national championship, took Carolina to the Super Bowl, and in my opinion, they robbed it or rigged it from him. But I won't get too much into that. One thing is for sure is I've always liked Cam Newton as a quarterback. I don't know him as a person. I'm not trying to, smell his funky jaws or anything like that, but I've always liked Cam Newton as a quarterback and how he played the game. I like his mentality. I like what he did, what he brought to the Carolina Panthers organization, so on and so forth. But one thing I will say is this. As a former student athlete myself, there are a lot of times that when you are an athlete, when it comes to reporters or, just dealing with, certain news articles, professionals at that level, when it comes to being a broadcaster or someone that's involved with talking sports and being involved with the media, I took classes on that, right? I took classes in college when it came to broadcasting, sports media, stuff like that. And from a perspective, I get where Cam Newton's coming from. In this clip he talked about now how athletes are having to defend themselves, or now they have a chance to defend themselves, and what he went through as a former athlete who dealt with criticism, who dealt with things that were said about him, or his teammates, they dealt with things that were said about them that they didn't really appreciate or didn't like. And at times, especially as a fan, when you watch a lot of these takes on ESPN, First Take, Sports Center shows and whatnot, and they're talking about these athletes, some of these newscasters or these sportscasters do get personal. They say things that, are cut through. I know Stephen A. Smith is one of them. I've heard Jason Whitlock say some things, I'm not coming at them or attacking them. But from a perspective, when I see and I listen to what Cam Newton is talking about in terms of what his own perspective was, a lot of times, you sit back and, you listen to some of these things that are being said about them, and you understand where they're coming from, right? One of the main things that I respect and I will say about Cam Newton, why he is in defense of Joy Taylor in that situation, I don't think it's for the fact that he's trying to be a simp the way they tried to call him. I look at it as he understands how some of these people were in sports media. And it's being taken out of context, but other people who are watching this content and taking it in and saying, oh, he's just being a simp because of the simple fact that he just wants to get him some from Joy Taylor, or the simple fact that he just wants an opportunity to, not just be with Joy Taylor, but to express himself, and he doesn't know what he's talking about, things like that. But honestly, Cam Newton is taking an honest take from a perspective of which something that a lot of fans don't realize. As an athlete, this dude was criticized at times for, how he played the game. When he was hurt, a lot of times they took shots at him. They said things that were unfair, that were disrespectful about this man's character. A lot of these sportscasters get very deep. They get very raw and personal. And a lot of times when you see these athletes, you're like, dang, you're making all this money. You're a professional athlete. You're doing, X, Y, Z. But then you're taking a criticism and you're taking things, far too an extreme. But then what's seen as a professional show is not, when it's not seen, or the opinion is not given from a professional standpoint. How do you take that as a person, right? How do you accept that criticism with disrespect, right? It's one thing to criticize someone, and to give honest feedback in terms of how they can improve. But they got raw and personal to where they even attacked this dude's character at one time when he was playing quarterback. So now I look at it as, this is Cam Newton saying, well, this is my chance. This is my opportunity to stand up against Fox, stand up against, sports shows that belittled and talk down about these guys, right? Not just Cam Newton, but other athletes, right? These guys, what I respect about Cam Newton and his stance is the fact that he's talking from a perspective of not being a simp, but giving people a perspective of what really goes on behind camera. As a former student athlete myself, someone who took broadcasting classes in sports media, in general, involved with media, social media, so on and so forth, using platforms that cover sports and so on and so forth, news, intake and everything else, you gotta understand, like, there's a professional way to how to be, and there's a line where some things are drawn, and there's sometimes where they're taking things and they're making it more personal. What I don't like about ESPN today, is why I don't watch a lot of the ESPN First Take shows, is they're making things a lot more personal, and why I made a video I'm talking about why they should take politics out of sports. They're making things more personal. Things are about race, things are about politics. It's like you have these things that are creating a divide in our society that you're implementing in the sports, which brings people together, right? So when I look at Cam Newton, I totally understand why he's given the take. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but I don't look at it from a perspective and a standpoint of where Cam Newton is trying to be a simp. I think Cam Newton is looking at it like, these dudes just used to disrespect me. These guys used to talk bad about me. These are the same guys that are talking down about Joy Taylor. You know what? F these guys. These guys, they're not always right. They're not always in the know, or they don't always have the perspective of these athletes, because they really don't, right? How many of these guys that up there in these First Take shows play sports outside of someone like Ryan Clark, right? Or a few others that that I want to say, the guy Jeff Saturday, who became one of the coaches for the Indianapolis Colts, right? Outside of those guys, how many of those individuals actually went out there and became a professional athlete themselves, and actually spoke from an honest and true standpoint about what these athletes were about, on the field, not attacking their character and so on and so forth, right? I look at someone like Marshawn Lynch. Look at how he was criticized, right? He didn't always want to listen to the media, talk to the media after games, whether they won or lost, because of how they were. Some of the stupid questions they ask, some of the things that they do, right? Some of the things that they say as media personnel is not always professional, right? So I look at it like, this is Cam Newton's way of saying, yeah, it's good that these guys are being exposed, but let's expose more of who they are, and let's bring out let's now that we have, like he said in his clip, it's not funny when the rabbit has a gun. let's bring it out. Let's tear them down. Let's take a shot at their character and show what they're about. Because if you really take a honest look at what's going on with Fox Sports and what happened with that whole situation, even though Joy Taylor is also caught up in the whole situation itself, you got to look at things from an honest perspective, right? The media is used, or it's supposed to be used, to give an honest take on everything that's going on in that platform. But when you look at how they cover sports, how they cover these athletes, they're angling things, they're taking parts of it out, they're doing things to either tear a guy down or build a guy up, right? And they do it based on the fact of what they think is gonna make them likable, bring them revenue, and obviously, do what they can to, expand upon their brand and, pretty much, put themselves out there as, number one or whatever the case may be, right? So when I look at what Cam Newton is doing, I totally get it. I totally understand. This dude is standing up for what he believes in as far as how athletes were treated, right? And from what I understand, they have to, dress a certain way and talk a certain way. They have to deal with the media, to an extent to where they can get the right coverage and so on and so forth based on, what they can put out to the fans and the media, people that are watching these shows and so on and so forth, right? At the end of the day, all I'm saying is I respect Cam Newton's take, right? I honestly think that that dude has a right to express what it is that he's saying. I don't look at it as him being a simp, right? He got in trouble, he got fined, lost, all kind of money or opportunities with deals that he had, shoe deals or whatever deals he had with the Carolina Panthers and Nike and so on and so forth, all for a few comments that he said, or a comment that he said pertaining to a female reporter in terms of how she talked about guys running routes and certain coverages and things like that. And honestly, I looked at it and I was like, wow, how sensitive can our society be if, we're getting, upset over at a comment that's not even, that's a lot of times mistaken. A lot of times when I look at what's going on in our society, a lot of things are just taken out of context. And I actually felt bad for the man in that regard. He didn't deserve that. And I just honestly hope that he's, successful in his Within One, show that he has. I really hope that things are going well for him. Right? But at the end of the day, I respect Cam Newton. I respect his take. And I wish nothing but the best for him. Alright? So, that is all for my video today. Remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my content if you like it. And you want to feel free to leave a comment to give an opinion on what you think. By all means, do so. But always remember, to stay informed is not to be woke. Stay conscious and have a great day.